Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel, 미친 영어 coaching. This is where I teach you English speaking in a professional setting, in a business setting, or social setting. Ways for you to speak English professionally, confidently, and comfortably, right? We want to speak English comfortably so you don't get scared, nervous, awkward, things like that. So my name's Mitch, and this video we're going to talk about something that is continued from the last video a little bit. Last video, we talked about networking events when you go to a social work event. This one is similar because there's another social event that we do in business often, and that is dinner, eating together, right? This is something that's very, it goes back from all of history, in business relationships, any relationship. The first thing, if you want to build a relationship, you have to do is eat together. Why? I don't know. It's human nature. When you eat together, you become friendlier, right? It's hard to be angry with somebody if you are eating together, right? Because you're doing something that everybody does, very vulnerable, very real thing. You're not hiding usually in a dinner. So it's a good chance. It's a good chance for you to get to know the other person, for them to get to know you. But there are some things you need to think about as far as social English and business etiquette. Etiquette means manners, table manners, just the way that we do things when you have a business dinner. Okay, so I have another video that is on my channel. You can find that I talk more about the specific topics and phrases to use in a business dinner. But today I'm going to talk about the actual dinner itself and more of the actions involved. Western business dinners are very, very different from 회식, the Korean style 회식, right? You're probably familiar with 회식s, and in 회식 there's a lot of drinking. First of all, they do a lot of drinking usually. Maybe these days it seems to be less, but I know that in a lot of business dinners in Korea, in Asia, and specifically, deals are made by drinking together, and often they drink first before anything is talked about. They kind of get loose. You get loose, and then you get more comfortable. That is very uncommon in Western dinner culture, business dinner culture, okay? We will have drinks together. That's true, maybe some wine, maybe a beer, maybe even finish up with a whiskey, but it is not like the Korean soju culture. Okay, so keep that in mind. When you are having a 회식 with a Westerner, they are probably not thinking that they're gonna drink a lot, unless they've lived in Korea long enough to know that that's how it goes. Then they might like it. But if you have, let's say you have a visitor from the US, their company, they send a person here and you're gonna go to dinner with them, don't plan on getting them drunk, okay? Because a lot of people in America these days are even sober. They say, I'm sober. If someone says, I'm sober, that means they don't drink at all, okay? But often people will drink, but they're not planning to drink a lot. Americans in general and Western culture, England, that kind of thing, older people, I'm talking about business, not college students. College students, who knows, they drink forever. But business people, generally, they don't drink a lot, they don't get drunk. They may have a drink with dinner, maybe a drink after, but they don't want to wake up with a headache the next day. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Generally, you're not gonna go hard. We say go hard. That means, drink 건배, 건배, 건배. Not gonna happen with the Western business meeting. Okay, so you can go home and tell your wife that, oh, I don't have to drink that much. It's great. She'll be happy. Okay, so that's a good thing. But just remember that. Okay, so it's totally fine when you sit down to eat together. The first thing you can say is, would you like anything to drink? Would you like anything to drink before we get started? That's the other thing that's quite different. In Western culture, we often have a drink before we eat. Okay, just kind of an appetizer. So when you go to a restaurant, they usually ask you for, would you like anything to drink first? Okay, now I know in Korea, generally, everybody gets the food first and then they start drinking, which is probably smarter because you want a full stomach. But in America or Western culture, often we'll get the drink first just to start. Not to drink hard, but just a little bit, like a little sip of wine, and then you think about what you want to eat. Okay, so in a restaurant, that's how it works in America. If you go to America, this is how they're gonna ask you for drinks first. So keep that in mind too. But let's say you're in Korea, you can ask the person just to make them feel comfortable. Would you like anything to drink? Maybe some wine, maybe some beer. Okay, and that's a good way to start. Okay, then now we got to talk about food. Okay, the next topic is food. Don't jump into business yet. We haven't even ordered the food yet. So ordering, it's generally not that difficult, but everybody has different dietary restrictions. Dietary restriction means things you can't eat. Okay, some people it's because of allergies, like they have an allergy to nuts or something. They can't have any seafood because of allergies. Some people, it's because of culture or religious reasons, like if you have someone coming from India, they're not going to eat beef probably. If you have someone coming from Muslim country, they have dietary restrictions that you should think about. Some people are vegetarians. A lot of people in America these days, vegetarians. And then some people just, if they're coming from another country, they're not used to Korean food, so they might not be that adventurous. It all depends on the person. So this is why before you start, you need to kind of get to know them. Ask some questions like, oh, do you have any dietary restrictions? Do you have any allergies? What kind of food do you like? What kind of food do you not want to try? How adventurous of an eater are you? That's a good question. How adventurous are you? Don't just assume that they'll eat whatever you give them because they might not want to. You want to make them feel comfortable. Okay, so ask those questions first and then order the food after you've kind of gone over it with them. And then eventually you're going to want to transition to business talk, right? That's the goal of the meeting, of the dinner, but not too quickly, okay? You need to know how to pivot to the business topics and do it naturally. Okay, so after you do some small talk, you should do quite a bit of small talk at the dinner. Eventually, when the small talk kind of dies down, then you can naturally say like something like this, transition phrase, like, before we finish up today, I want to make sure we talk about, this point, or, while I have you here, let's talk about some business for a second. Okay, those kind of phrases, just to kind of naturally jump in to it. And then they're probably waiting too. They want to join in. They may actually start. Okay, then you can wait. But if it seems like the small talk is going too long and you need to talk about business, you can just say like, yeah, before we run out of time, I want to make sure we, go back and talk about this one thing from today's meeting or something like that. Okay, so those are useful things that you can do to kind of steer the conversation to the business side when it gets to the time, but don't do it too soon. Don't do it too soon. You want to make sure everybody's kind of relaxed, got their food, got their drink, they're at least into the meal, not before the food comes out or anything like that, because you still got, like, the waiter's going to come, they're going to ask questions, you got to decide about food, drinks. It's really a little bit rude when someone jumps right into deep conversation or business conversation before we even figured out what kind of food I want, because some people really need to think about that, make some decisions, right? So that's something to keep in mind too. Give them some time, give them some space. Don't be too coupé, right? Don't be too rushed. Don't rush it too much, okay? Then after you eat, after you talked about the business, again, don't rush the food. Let them eat slowly. Maybe ask, would you like anything else to drink? That's a good question when they've eaten. Looks like they've eaten everything. Would you like anything else to drink? One more drink before we go? That kind of question is good. And if they say yes, then probably they want to talk a little more. That's good. If they say no, don't take it personally. It just means, maybe you should start thinking about wrapping up the conversation. Okay, so in that case, then the next step is going to be the bill. Who's going to pay, right? So this one, usually if it's a business dinner, the company's going to pay, right? So if you invited, then it's kind of on you to pay. They're going to expect you to pay. If they invited you, then you can expect them to pay as well. That's pretty normal, the way it works, okay? Now, if it's not officially a business sponsored dinner, like the companies didn't approve, the company's not paying for it, in other words, if this person is just someone that invited you out, in that case, what we generally do is say like, oh, let me get the bill. And then they'll say, oh, no, I got it. I invited you, and that's okay. But you should at least, in that situation, you should at least offer, like, oh, let me pay, because they invited you, so probably they're going to pay, but, don't just assume that they're going to pay. Okay. But if it's like a corporate business dinner, the company's probably paying, then I think in that case, you can just let them pay and say, thank you for the dinner. That was so delicious, that kind of thing. Just make sure to compliment and say, I had a really great time. Thank you so much for inviting me to this dinner. Okay, and then don't forget to send a thank you email the next day, follow-up email or text to say, oh, yesterday I had a great conversation, great meal. Thanks so much for the dinner. Just a quick one, just to say thank you. It's just a follow-up, polite etiquette kind of thing to do in business. Okay, so don't just eat and run, as we say. Eat, say thank you, and then the next day send a quick note. Just say like, oh, thanks so much for that dinner. I really enjoyed that food. It was so delicious, and we had a great conversation. Okay, so those are some tips for you when you have your next business dinner with a foreigner, with a non-Korean person. Okay, obviously in Korea, rules are different. You know the rules in Korea, but when you're meeting with someone from another country, try to keep these kind of standard etiquette things, and it will help you. It will help the business relationship to grow, and it will help you to feel comfortable, and them to feel comfortable. You'll have good conversations. You'll have a good time. All right? That's it, everybody. Come back and check out my videos each week as I update them. Go to my website at mitchinenglishcoach.com. You can find out more stuff about my classes that I offer, my online classes that I offer, where I talk about more of these tips for you. Okay? I'll see you in the next video.